This is the Paracave Podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Parramatta Eels Club, home of the Eels, and also home of Jack's Pale Ale.
Welcome to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Paracave.
And yes, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. Troy Warner here. This is the tipping podcast for round number 24, proudly brought to you by Assure Strata Reports. Give them a follow on Instagram, and also Buddy Old Man Masters Boxer. Give him a follow on Instagram as well. They are the proud sponsors of the Paracave Podcast tipping competition. That is nearly done and dusted. Only 4 weeks to go now with that competition. So I really appreciate the support from those guys. It is much, much appreciated. So I'm sure the listeners and fans are as well. And those that are in the tipping comp and those that are near the top of the ladder, or indeed at the top of the ladder. But only 4 weeks to go. But this is round number 24 in the NRL. As I said, 4 games to go in the regular season before we hit finals. And look, it kicks off with a cracker of a game. It is the grand final replay. It is the Penrith Panthers taking on the Melbourne Storm at 7:50pm on a Thursday night at CommBank Stadium. Funnily enough, it's a third time in 3 weeks that the Storm have played on a Thursday night, and 2 games out of 3 that they've played at CommBank Stadium on a Thursday night, having beaten Parramatta a couple of weeks ago, 16 points to 10 at CommBank Stadium on a Thursday night. Well, there you go, eh? Anyway, this is a massive game. It will be a massive game. Ashley Klein is the referee in this one. Ivan Cleary has gone with the same 17 that beat the Knights. Then that was their 9th win in a row. So they are looking for 10 wins in a row. Now, a lot of the experts are saying, can you believe that? As in May, they were, I think, in last position on the ladder. But look, a sensational effort there. They are going for 10 wins in a row. Isaiah Yeo, he still remains sidelined, so with a shoulder injury, so a big out for the Panthers. Obviously, Jerome Hughes is still out for the Melbourne Storm. That is a big loss for them. He has been out for a couple of weeks now. But also, Ryan Papenhuyzen is also out as well due to, I think it's concussion protocols. So Nick Meaney goes back to fullback. Marian Seve goes into the centres for his first game since round number 4. So, look, a few changes there, but it all goes down to who has the biggest outs in their side. And you'd probably have to say the Melbourne Storm, having Papenhuyzen and Jerome Hughes out, whilst the Panthers have only got Isaiah Yeo out. So the Panthers would go into this game as favourites. That is for sure. Look, they did play earlier on this year, and funnily enough, it was on a Thursday night again. That was way back in March. There was a 30-24 win to the Melbourne Storm. Now, 5 wins in a row for the Panthers. Well, it's actually 9, but out of their last 5 definitely. And then it was 4 out of the last 5 for the Melbourne Storm. They went down to their Sea Eagles 18 points to 16. That win was famously broadcast with Jake Trbojevic in the change rooms kicking the drink container. How good was that? So that was their only loss in the last 4 weeks. So look, there's plenty of matchups here in this one anyway. Cameron Munster up against Nathan Cleary, I guess you could say. Brian Toto, Xavier Coates, that will be an interesting one, although they'll be on opposite sides of the field, won't they? The big forward battle, Moses Leota, Stefano Utokumanu, Lindsay Smith, Josh King. It's a big sort of a forward battle, I think, this game. But I will tip the Penrith Panthers in this one. I'm going to say a 1-12 game in that. So the Panthers to win that one. The first game on the Friday night, 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, is the Warriors over in New Zealand taking on the Dragons. Now, the Dragons, they had a great win last week. The Warriors, Tanner Boyd comes back. Tamari Martin sidelined with concussion. Wade Egan, a big end for the Warriors. He comes back, overcoming a shoulder injury. But Kurt Capel, unfortunately, the Origin player, is out with concussion as well. He'll miss the game. The big sensation from this year, Lika Halasima, goes into the starting side. For the Dragons, Matt Feeney is back and Moses Sully is out, unfortunately. So a big loss for them. Look, this one, interesting one. This one, Todd Smith is the referee in this game. Look, the Warriors, they are hanging in there. They're in 5th spot at the moment. They will want to try and get back into that top 4. But the Dragons, I think they're just going to spoil the party for teams in these last few rounds. Look, they have played earlier on this year. It was a 1-point win to the Warriors. That was down at Winch Stadium. It was a Luke Metcalf field goal, and that was when he was on fire before his knee injury, unfortunately. The Dragons actually outscored them 3 tries to 2, but it was a couple of penalty goals to Luke Metcalf and obviously that field goal that got them the victory. So 1-point victors on that occasion. Look, I don't know. I just think, look, this is a massive game. The Warriors go into this game as favourites. I think they've got a lot to play for in this one. I don't know if the Dragons can do it, even though they have been playing some pretty reasonable football over the last couple of weeks. And as I said, they will be very competitive, but I think this just means a hell of a lot more to the Warriors. So I will tip the Warriors in this one. Again, I will tip a 1-12 game victory to them. The next game is the Roosters and Bulldogs. How good is this one going to be? This is 8 p.m. at Allianz Stadium, Friday night, the second game on the Friday. Siwa Wong is out with concussion. Victor Radley, he joins the starting side at lock. So Nathaniel White goes to prop. And for the Bulldogs, the same number 17, they got the job done against the Warriors. So that is good news for them. No changes there. Connor Tracy, who's been playing some great footy at fullback for the Bulldogs, was injured a couple of weeks ago with an abdominal injury. He's been listed among the reserves, so he may play, or they may decide just to give him one more week rest in this one. Again, they have played earlier on this year. That was way back in round number 11. And look, that was the night that the rugby convert, who has been setting the rugby league world on storm, and especially from this night as well, Mark Nwanganitoase scoring an unbelievable try. Go back on YouTube, check it out. Roosters v Bulldogs 2025, and you'll see Marky Mark's try where he kicks the ball on one leg and gets it just before it goes dead. Great try, that one. It was a 24-20 win to the Bulldogs on that occasion. That was when they were winning games every week. They have struggled a little bit of late. They did have that hiccup against the Tigers, it was a couple of weeks ago, and they also have lost. Sorry, that was the only loss in their last 5. The Roosters, they have had a couple of wins in a row now against the Sea Eagles, and that massive score against the Dolphins. 64 points to 12. Sam Walker, he has come back from his knee injury, and he is firing at the moment. So the Roosters, they are going really well. This one is going to be... Look, this is if Penrith and Melbourne is the game of the round, well, this one could be right up there as well. The Roosters, they are looking to get into that top 8. The Bulldogs, they are in 3rd, so they want to stick in that top 4, potentially wanting to get that 2nd position at least, maybe even the minor premiership, although I do think that will go to the Canberra Raiders. But they are in 3rd position at the moment. They go into this game as favourites. Oh, geez. This one's going to be a hard one to pick, isn't it? Yeah, geez. I don't know. This is going to be under a 6-point victory to whoever wins this game. And I think I'm going to tip the Roosters in this one. I just think that home ground advantage is at Allianz Stadium. There could be a 30,000 plus crowd there for a regular game here. The Bulldogs fans, we know they will travel. So, yeah, look, I'm going to tip the Roosters in that one. Just because it is at Allianz Stadium. And, look, they are fighting for that top 8 spot. Yeah, I'm going to tip the Roosters. There we go. Sorry, Bulldogs fans. The first game on Super Saturday sees the Sharks play the Titans at Sharks Stadium Saturday 3 p.m. Now, this is refereed by Peter Goff. Jesse Ramian, he is out for the regular season, I think I read today. Hiroti comes into the centres. Billy Burns comes in for Britton Nickera as well. He is suspended. So, a couple of changes there. Big boost for the Titans with a man who has been in the news of late with contract talk. Big Tino Fa'asuamaleaui. He is named to return after having 3 weeks out with a knee injury. Phil Sami, concussion protocols. He comes back. Mo Fotuaika as well, the big bopper. He comes back after an illness. Regan Campbell-Gillard moves to the bench. And Brian Kelly enters concussion protocol. So a few changes there to those Titans. Look, the Titans have had a season that we would like to forget. One of the last games that Kieran Foran will play. The Sharkies, though, they disappointed me last week against the Dragons. I did tip them to win. One loss out of their last 5. The Titans 1 win out of their last 5, and that was against the Warriors, although they were rorted against the Panthers, I reckon. And they went down narrowly to the Rabbitohs. So they've been playing some good footy the last couple of weeks. Can they mix it with the Sharkies? I don't know. First time they're meeting this season. And the Titans actually last year beat the Sharks at home, so they've got that going for them. Although the Sharkies in 7th spot, I think they will get the win. Look, I think, unfortunately for the Titans, I think it will be a 13-plus game. I think the Sharks, they may turn it on here in front of their home crowd. Hopefully it's a nice sunny day there at Shark Park. Another great game, 5:30 p.m. at Suncorp Stadium. The Battle of Brisbane. Brisbane Broncos taking on the Dolphins. Now, look, the Broncos, they had been in the news as well ever since that game from the Storm where they had 3 players out with injury. Ezra Mam, Adam Reynolds, and also Selwyn Cobbo as well with hamstring injuries. Yes, you heard it. All of them have had or got hamstring injuries. So, Ben Hunt and Billy Walters are the new look halves combination. Billy playing in number 6. His dad made that jersey famous at the same club as well. And Ben Hunt goes back into his natural position of number 7. Corey Pakes comes in as the hooker. Tyson Smoothie joins the bench. Karapani comes in for Selwyn Cobbo. For the Dolphins, Francis Molo has been suspended. Mark Nichols, the GOAT, some would say. He has been elevated to start at prop. And Kenny Bromwich joins the bench for his first NRL game since round number 8. So, look, a few changes to the Dolphins as well. Look, the Dolphins, they are in 8th spot. The Broncos, they are in, they're in 6th spot. So, a top 8 battle here. Dolphins, they've got the Roosters breathing down their neck. They will know that result of the Roosters-Bulldogs game before this one. The Broncos, the good chance for them to get back up the ladder a little bit, maybe even they will go into 5th spot if they I tipped the Warriors, didn't I? Silly Troy. So they will stay in 6th spot even if they win, but they got the Sharks breathing down their neck as well. So they could, if the Dolphins win, the Broncos could find themselves in the 8th spot. But then they could find themselves into 8th spot, and potentially slipping out of that 8th. So, massive game for them. The Dolphins, as I said, they are in 8th spot at the moment. They have got a pretty handy for and against differential of plus 119 after scoring those big scores against a few teams earlier on in the season. So, I think it will be... Look, the Dolphins have got their injury worries as well, but I think, look, they have played this season. It was a victory to the Broncos, 20 points to 12. We've got both teams have had 3 wins out of their last 5. Look, I think I'm going to tip the Dolphins in this one. I just think, even though the replacements are pretty handy players for the Broncos, Ben Hunt and Billy Walters in that halves combination, that is a massive unsettling there. I think Isaiah Katoa, he'll have a massive game in this one. Look, as I said, they do have a few injuries themselves, most notably Herbie Farnworth. They missed him last week against the Roosters. But I think this is a massive game for the Dolphins. If they can win this, they will probably make it to the top 8, I think. They still have a couple of hard games to go, but it will go a long way to making the finals for the first time in their very short history. I just think there's a lot of disruption for the Broncos, I think. Look, they'll probably prove me wrong now, but I think the Dolphins will get this one 1-12. The game that I will be at this weekend is the Rabbitohs and Eels at Allianz Stadium, Saturday, 7:35 p.m. now. Very easy for the Eels. No changes to the side that beat the Cowboys by 1 point, 19 points to 18. So Coach Jason Riles has left Dylan Brown in the centres and also Kelman Tuilagi on the bench, has named Luca Moretti as the starting lock as he did last week. So no real changes there. There is Isaiah Iongi in number 21 in the extended bench there, but who knows, maybe just one more week for Isaiah. If he does come into the side, I don't know where. Obviously he'll go to fullback. Where does that leave Joash Papali? Does that mean he goes to centre and Dylan Brown drops out? Or does that mean he goes to 6 and Dean Hawkins drops out? I probably wouldn't drop out Dean Hawkins. He's done a pretty good job this season when he has deputised for Mitchell Moses whilst he's been out, and then he has got that number 6 position. So I think potentially Dylan Brown will be the player who goes out, but we don't want Joash playing a lot of positions like fullback, like centre, like 5/8, like Blaze Talangi did last season for Parramatta. It might just interest him, but he may be happy just to play any position in this side as long as he's playing first grade. Rabbitohs, Lachlan Hubner is out, suffering a head knock. Shaq Mitchell in his first NRL appearance of the season. He is replacing Lachlan Hubner. First game of the year. He's been out with injury he's on the bench, number 14. Latrell Mitchell is in the centres. Jai Gray is still the fullback. Alex Johnston, he loves playing against Parramatta. Scores plenty of tries against Parramatta, unfortunately. But hopefully not on this occasion. Look, I am going to tip Parramatta in this one. They are the favourites in this game, to be honest. And I think that may be just because of ladder position, with the Rabbitohs in 16th. Parramatta in 13th. However, Parramatta have been playing some pretty good footy of late. 2 wins out of their last 5. The Rabbitohs only 1 win out of their last 5, and that was against the Gold Coast. Although the Rabbitohs can be a little bit of a bogey side for Parramatta. So this will be a big game for Parramatta, just to keep themselves away from that bottom. Keeping in mind the Rabbitohs still have a bye to come as well. So I am going to tip, obviously, Parramatta in that one. On Sunday, the first game, 2 p.m, is at Allianz Stadium. Now, this is very interesting because it's a Tigers home game. So that's another home ground for them. They've got Allianz, they've got CommBank, they've got Campbelltown, they've got Leichhardt. So, I don't know. Cannot keep track. I don't know why this one is being played at Allianz Stadium. But anyway, it is. And it's 2 p.m. and it's against Manly. The Tigers v Manly. Stafford Toa returns after missing the win over the Bulldogs. Brent Naden, who was in the news after that game, after that Bulldogs game anyway, he drops to the reserves. Taylor May, he is named in the centre position. He suffered a head knock in that game, but the Tigers had the bye last week anyway as well. Alex Seyfarth, one of their good players, is suspended. Alex Twell moves back to the front row. For the Sea Eagles, Jake Trbojevic. Now, this one looked pretty bad last week. Unfortunately, he has entered the concussion protocols and is replaced at lock by Jazz Tavanga. Meanwhile, Jake's brother Ben Trbojevic returns from concussion protocols, and also Lehigh Hapawadi is back from a shoulder injury, but he moves to the wing, not to fullback. Tommy Trbojevic has maintained his position at fullback. Now, the Sea Eagles are in 10th, the Tigers are in 12th, and look, the Sea Eagles are on 24 points. They could still make the 8. If they lose this game, though, you could probably almost say season over. The Tigers are in 22 points and in 12th spot. They have played a little bit better football this season than they have the last 3, where they got the wooden spoon. So they will want to jump up the ladder as well. So if the Dragons lose to the Warriors, which I've tipped the Warriors, and the Tigers win, they'll jump over the top of the Dragons and get up another spot on the ladder. So look, I'm going to tip Manly in this one. Sorry, Tigers fans. I'm going to tip Manly. I don't know how the Tigers go after a week off, but look, they have played earlier this year at Brookvale Oval. It was 28 points to 10 in favour of the Sea Eagles. The Sea Eagles 2 wins out of their last 5, although the form side would be the Tigers, 3 wins out of their last 5 as well. So I will tip, though, the Sea Eagles in this one to get back and get a victory and just keep that pressure on of getting into that top 8. The last game on Sunday is at 4:05 p.m. It is at Queensland Country Bank Stadium. It is the Cowboys taking on the Newcastle Knights. Now, a very interesting game, this one, because the Cowboys find themselves in 14th spot on the ladder on 19 points. The Knights are on 18 points. So if the Knights can get a win, they will jump the Cowboys, and the Cowboys will go down another spot. So, Newcastle, look, they can play some good footy here and there, but I don't know. Connor Vitano makes his NRL debut at fullback. Dane Gagai goes back to the centres. Fletcher Hunt drops out. Tyson Frizzell, now he's just re-signed another deal for next season, 2026. He goes into the starting side. Phoenix Crossland's got a head knock, so he replaces him. Brodie Jones has come back into the side. New South Wales Cup captain Matt Arthur will play his second game of the season. He is in jumper number 14. For the Cowboys, Jordan McLean is back. Cohen Hess, though, he is suspended for the rest of the season. So he did a dangerous tackle on Joash Papali. Carl Lawton joins the bench after coming back from suspension. Tom McKaylee and Harrison Edwards return as well. Grant Atkins is the senior review official. This game up at Queensland Country Bank Stadium. Look, the Cowboys, they're going to have to give their home fans something to cheer about, I think, because it's been a rough old season for them. They still do have a bye to come this year, but this one at home is going to be tough for Newcastle. I think I saw a stat before they haven't won there in 10 years or something like that, I think it was. But yeah, I don't think that's going to change. I think it could be a 13-plus win to the Cowboys. Sorry, Lincoln from the United podcast, if you are listening. And the Canberra Raiders have the bye this weekend, their last bye of the season, which will give them 2 points, so that'll go to 40 points. So if Melbourne lose to Penrith and the Bulldogs, if they lose to the Roosters, that will give them a nice, comfortable buffer at the top of the ladder. Now, just recapping those tips from myself. Now, I don't have Ella with me. I will post Ella's tips up on Thursday, so stay tuned for that one on the Instagram page. But my tips, just recapping, is the Panthers, Warriors, Roosters, Sharks, Dolphins, Eels, Sea Eagles, and Cowboys. Now, just quickly, it is the round number 7 in the NRLW as well. 3 games on the Saturday, 3 games on the Sunday. The first of the Saturday games are the Sharks and Titans. I will tip the Sharks at that one at home. I think that's a double header at Shark Park. The Broncos and the Eels match off. That is before the Broncos and Dolphins game, so another doubleheader there at Suncorp Stadium. Look, the Eels will do it tough up there. The Broncos, they're pretty high flying this season. I think they've only lost the 1 game, so they will be hard to beat. That is for sure on their home deck. I'll tip Parramatta anyway. But I think if I was in a tipping comp, I'd probably tip Brisbane. But I think Parramatta, they've got a few troops coming back this week. Kennedy Charrington returns, which is great news. Boss Kapoa, she goes back to the bench. Second row. First game this season. Chloe Jackson goes to the interchange bench. Riverlea Arlo goes to the interchange bench as well, to make way for Kennedy Charrington as well. So, look, if they get a few troops back, but they're still missing Rory Owen and Cassie Tohuhiku. So, look, they'll find it tough against the Broncos, but I will still tip the Eels. But if you're a betting person, then maybe the Broncos. Warriors and Raiders, I will tip the Warriors in that one. Also, the Tigers and Dragons is the first game on the Sunday. I'll tip the Dragons in that one. The Sunday, the Roosters and Knights. That'll be a cracker of a game, that one. The undefeated Roosters, I think they will maintain their undefeatism. Is that a word? I don't know. Or they will remain undefeated. And the Cowboys and the Bulldogs. Look, I'll tip the Cowboys in that one. that's it for another tipping podcast, round number 24. Thank you very much for listening. Do you agree with my tips? Have you got something different? Let me know. Enjoy your footy over the weekend, both your NRLW and your NRL. Now, I also forgot to mention as well that it is the second week of Indigenous Round. Previously in the NRL, it had been only 1 week, but it was obviously last week and now this week. So you will see a couple of the teams who didn't wear their Indigenous jersey wear them this week. I think Cowboys are one. They played away last week, so they will wear their one at home. So that's one I can think of off the top of my head. But I'm sure all the other teams will re-wear their ones for this week. So Indigenous round number 2, I guess you could say. So celebrating Indigenous Australia and the Indigenous players that have played rugby league as well, and all the communities. So it is a great thing. I will be getting my Indigenous jersey this week, so cannot wait to wear that one on Saturday. And also, coming up on the podcast as well, I will have an interview with Sean Duncan Kinchilla, who is the designer of the Parramatta Eels Indigenous jersey, with which both the men and women wore last weekend. A very interesting chat with him. We do talk about the Parramatta Eels Indigenous jersey. He has designed the last four for Parramatta, and I said to him that I just think that from his first one to now, they just keep on getting better and better each and every year. So stay tuned for that one as well. Thank you very much for listening. Please give me a follow on Instagram, Facebook, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast. I really appreciate the support. I really love doing these for you. And the Para Cave podcast, by the fan, for the fans. Go Para! How you going, mate? Are you a Para Cave podcast listener?
I am, bro. It's a great podcast. Everyone tune in.
Go Para!
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Para Cave podcast. See you next time.